Do you ever wonder if there's something meant for you to do that wherever you end up, eventually you're going to do exactly what you're supposed to be doing? Well, today let's hear from Graem, who runs Dupage Security Solutions, and hear how he ended up running this place here in Addison. Make it seamless, so I didn't want to...
Oh, so I ruined it. That's cool.
No worries, I restarted it.
All right, Graem Cuban, I run Dupage Security Solutions here in Addison.
Okay. Yeah, you said, I remember in the emails you said you kind of been around here all your life pretty much.
Sure,
Where exactly did you grow up when you started? I guess where was your home base when you grew up here?
Yeah, so I spent most of my childhood time here in Addison. I grew into St. Joe's for a while when it was still a school. When I was super little, I went to finished, I think, 4th through 8th grade at St. Philip over Addison on the other side of town, and I went to Addison Trail and graduated there. So I've grown up the whole time. We live in the middle part of Addison. My folks do. I moved away, but I still come back here. And my sister and brother-in-law there live in the area as well, so we've all been around this town for basically since I've been alive.
Yeah. Now that you've gone and come back, what have you loved about Addison or loved about the area since you've been around here and there?
I think not much has changed. So I spend a lot of time here, obviously growing up. I lived in Deerfield. I live in Oswego now, and I go back and forth. But I still see familiar faces that come into our shop here that, someone that I haven't seen since maybe high school that is visiting or comes in for something, and we reconnect that way. I appreciate the industry that's in town, and as I've talked before, back in the industrial section here, there's a ton of things that are made here locally in Addison that I don't think folks realize. The smaller niche industry stuff that the town has that really goes out to it's part of something larger, not just a factory. And that part has always been, I feel, around here as long as I can remember.
Yeah. I mean, you've been here a while, your family has. What drew your family and yourself to kind of decide to continue working here and continue operating the business in Addison, basically?
Sure. So, but for a short stint, we lived in Glen Ellen. My folks moved here. My grandparents started the business. My grandfather back in about 1962, I think it was, out of his garage in Addison. He was an Elmhurst cop, so he right town over. And then, as the niche for locksmithing in that time started to grow, he moved out of his garage to a small storefront in Fullerton, right down the street here. And then as we continued to grow, we were looking for bigger space. So we do have such a great customer base from not only the residential side, but the Addison School District 4 is we service their properties. And so it's important to kind of be in a central location. But it made sense. We just kind of moved down the street so our normal customers could find us, and we just went into a bigger operation as we grew.
Yeah, that's awesome. Especially, your grandparents, all the generations that you guys
Sure.
kept the business running.
Yep.
Has there been any, difficulties with continuing to run a business that's been in your family for generations?
I think as it's a loaded question, and I'm sure mom and dad might see, but it's one thing to spend time outside of work together and holidays, gathering, grandkids, extended family. But the dynamic of all of a sudden spending all day together, Monday through Friday, and then getting together, it's the delineation between work and home is a tough one to navigate. And that was a big change for me when I started working here. But as we grow, you feel like you've got more skin in the game because you're doing it for your family. And so it's been an interesting adventure to kind of form a deeper relationship that way, as far as, you don't look, if you cover someone because they're sick, for example, if you're just punching the clock for somebody or working for someone else, it's like, oh, I got to cover that guy. But when it becomes a family member, it's deeper rooted because there's a care there. And all pulling the rope towards the same goal to continue to grow the business and keep it operational. We've got a pretty long-term legacy here with how long we've been in business. And that's something that we all have a lot of pride in and want to continue that as we go.
Yeah, I love that answer. I never thought about it that way. Like, people always are cautious work with family. When you think about the deeper ties, you're all really wanting the same goal at the end. That's a good way to frame it. I kind of like that. What made you, I guess you personally, I know we've talked before. You said
Sure.
you came in and out. What made you personally decide to, continue the family business and jump back into this field of work?
Yeah, so in my prior life, before coming back here, I was in banking, corporate banking. Had a lot of responsibility, a big arm span of control, and it was big corporate. At a certain point, and folks that have been in retail or work for big corporations might identify with the thought that there's only so much Kool-Aid you can drink until it becomes too much. And so I was looking for something different to do, and the talk started about me coming back to work here. And again, to continue the growth of our company was interesting to me as a venture. Now I shouldn't say I knew nothing about the locksmithing industry. I grew up around it. Summers when I wasn't in school, I'd help sweep and clean and stuff like that. But as I started looking at it from a business perspective, the growth opportunity, the ability to help people, whether it's on the personal, residential side or commercial side, it really is a niche, and it's something that to find a brick and mortar locksmith these days is far and few between. You can Google, and you'll find stuff that comes back, and it may give you an address. And we found, I challenge people to Google it all the time. You'll find places that don't exist. It has a street address, doesn't exist. So to have an actual brick and mortar, and people come in like, oh my goodness, you guys are, it's so great you're here. And I remember there's a long legacy, and that was important to me to take that opportunity and to challenge myself to see if I can grow and take on more than what we were doing before. And it's not because it wasn't available before. It's just, as you're in the business for, 20, 30 years, and you start heading towards a retirement side, your desire to do different things or take different challenges or leaps kind of changes, your risk reward. So I saw some opportunity. I wanted to help continue to serve the people we do now, but also evolve. Mechanical locks, people say they're going to go away. Oh, they'll never, but there's always going to be a mechanical lock. Electric locks, wireless locks, stuff like that. If the battery fails, power goes out, you need to get in somehow, some way. So you're always going to have some type of key override, and there's always going to be a demand that way. And so I wanted to kind of see what was new and grow and challenge myself to continue to take on new stuff.
Yeah, well, that was great. Yeah, I didn't know there was a lot of people, they have locations online, but they're not actually there.
Yep.
It's really funny. What did running this, I know you haven't officially been able to buy it from your parents to pick it up, but what did you being in charge and running this place mean to you?
I think it hits back on the earlier stuff of continuing a legacy, being a third generation, potential third generation owner, right? But to do that, to have it in my family from, when my grandfather started out of his garage to, my folks buying it, that was about 2000, right around year 2000 they purchased it. And then to continue that legacy, you don't see it a lot. And it's not that I'm trying to do something that others haven't, but it's a unique opportunity to do that. My technicians, are good at what they do. We've got a great reputation. And when I start thinking about it, I'd hate to see it just close up shop. In today's time, after during this pandemic, there's been a lot of lock shops that have closed. They weren't able to weather it, or the owner didn't have a succession plan and just said, I'm done. And those folks now, their customers are left, where do I go? How, who can I call? And so the ability to take the torch and carry it on, something that I've been around all my life, whether when I was young with my grandfather to my parents to now, it has, it's that legacy part of doing a third generation and carrying that on. And will my kids ever want to? Don't know. But we provide a niche service, and when you hear people say, I can't believe you're still here, or oh my goodness, I'm so happy I found you. I mean, that stuff is the why of why I continued it or wanted to do it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I know when we asked about all your memorable experiences, you kind of, there's a few things you've done here and there. Has there been, I guess, any specific customer experience that has, reminding you of your why, or something that still, you still remember today?
There's a handful. I think when when someone tells me, hey, you made my day, which is silly to think that when someone comes in and you cut a key and they say, wow, you really made my day, and you're like, well, you just cut a key. It's just no big deal. But being able to have the personal touch with some folks, and they tell you, hey, I really appreciate the relationship. And there's a pretty large customer we deal with, and the head gentleman is retiring and moving away. And just the other day, I had a conversation with him to kind of catch him before he left, because he's been fantastic to work with, and I thanked him. And on the flip side, he said, thank you. I knew if I ever called you guys or I had an issue, I didn't have to follow up. You guys would take care of it, and then you'd let me know it was done, and that was it. And that's kind of the sales with service side of things. And when I get those comments back, it's kind of like, okay. And that's a phone call home on my way home at 7 o'clock at night. It doesn't seem to ever stop, the emails and calls and stuff. But when you get the reward of a customer that works for a pretty large, medical operation, they say, thank you for everything you've done. It kind of justifies the why, Yeah,
of course, absolutely. I guess now that you're at this point, I don't know how. I'm not going to ask you to say what your age is, but
sure.
Thinking back when you were a teenager, going. I don't know, what you were thinking about at that point. But if your 15-year-old self saw where you were now, I mean, what would they say about you? What would they say about where you are?
They'd be surprised. I think 15-year-old Graem was, I didn't have a plan. I don't mean it like I was just blown in the wind, but I was going to go to college. I went to college. What degree are you going to get? I'll get a marketing degree. What are you going to do with it? I have no idea. I fell out of college, when I graduated, right into retail sales. I was a sales manager in retail, working in that industry, which is long hours, sometimes thankless. And then I ended up running, a banking center, which I laughed at when they offered me the job, because they were putting me, who could barely pass math, in charge of this branch. And then from there, I moved up and they promoted me to run a full region. I had at one point over 100 people under my umbrella, and that was mind blowing. And then I transitioned here and I went the opposite side. So I went from, big corporate stuff, big banking stuff, to really small niche stuff. And I made the math comment, but it's hard to believe most of the stuff we do here is math related, as far as master key systems and things like that. So 15-year-old Graem, who was bad at math, would be laughing that, older Graem had to figure this stuff out and came back full circle that way. It was always around me in the family, the company, and there was always the, is he going to do it? Is he not? And, I would say also 15-year-old Graem would be thankful that, my folks never pushed me to do it. You're going to come work here and you're going to do this. They let me go out and make my own decisions, follow or try and find my place, find a career, and then, let me naturally come back to it as something I wanted to do. And I think that's really helped the transition. And I learned a lot. I saw a lot of different things, and I'm back kind of where I started and grew up. So it's almost full circle.
Yeah, no, that's great. I guess if you mentioned you were excited possibly opening up a second location or whatnot. If you looked out 10 years from now and you look back at everything you did the past 10 years, is there something that would make you super proud of what you did, what your work was in the past 10 years? Is there something that you would want to happen?
Yeah, I think, we talk about a second location and where that would fall from now to 10 years, I don't know. But it is a competitive market, even though I reference, shops closing up. You got to have the right people, you got to have the right niches, and you've got to, understand the business a little bit. Ideally to run a satellite location would be something. I live west, so when to send a truck an hour away to do service work, it's not feasible to the customer. It's not economically smart for the customer. But I see an opportunity further out that way, where we can carry our brand and what we do and who we are out there. And there's people that see we do go out west for commercial customers as part of our service stuff. And there are people that see my trucks out there. There's people that live in my neighborhood that I know. They're like, hey, I saw your truck down, blah, blah, blah. And so to be able to grow to a second location, it's stuff we've talked about. It's always been pie in the sky. But, if I were to look back 10 years from now and be able to accomplish that and have a good staff and good team around it, I think it'd be pretty cool to figure that part out. And it's trying to understand how that all works and being fortunate of the good customers we have that allow us to make that happen.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, absolutely. That'll be definitely exciting to see. You've been here in this community for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you have loyal customers. Is there anything specific that you want them to know about you, or anything you want to say to them, personally at all?
No, I think we get pigeonholed into being a locksmith, and as I have deeper conversations with people when they're looking for stuff, we have random resources that people never think of, and sometimes I don't think of. And I meet a lot of people doing this. I've seen a lot of different buildings and facilities and churches, schools, hospitals, and I would encourage people, if you're looking for something not so much lock related, but somewhere that falls into the security stuff, I would encourage you to call or email or reach out, and there's chances we can direct you in the right part of where you need to go. Google is great, but it doesn't solve everything, right? So in the umbrella of like locks and security and different things like that, I would just encourage people to reach out, because we do have a ton of resources. We work with other great partners too, and if I can help somebody save time Googling around and calling random people and say, oh no, you got to call here or do this, I'd like to pass that on and save the people time. But we've been around for so long that we know quite a few people that can possibly help as they're trying to find something else.
Yeah, awesome. No, that's great. Love that answer. Being able to know you can come here and find out other solutions and not just a locksmith. That's a possibility too.
Absolutely.
I guess my last question would just be, your family's been here for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys have any specific impact you want to have on the community? Is there anything that you guys, want to give back, or is there any kind of, anything internal from you guys? Is there anything special you want to give back to?
We're always looking to support different initiatives. It's something that, as we come out of this pandemic, hopefully sooner than later, we can start devoting some more time to as things stabilize, and we can bring back, we work on reduced hours, but if we can bring back a normal stuff, I certainly, whether it's the food pantry down the street we interface with, and we do some of the door repairs there, and I know their staff, and we've talked about how we can help maybe impact some of that. I know that's really important to the town of Addison, and the commissioner stuff. So, stuff like that I'm looking forward to in 2021, trying to get involved there in different nonprofit stuff here. And we support some of the private schools when they ask for donations and different things like that. If we can support a team that way or their department, we certainly try and do that when we can. But locally in the community, as we come back, I'd like to see what opportunities are around. And I've done stuff as far as, even just security seminars on, how to, what to look for when you're securing your home, the top 10 things, and businesses, and, kind of that type of stuff. Whether that's going to I think the library used to do it years back, where you'd go in, there'd be different presentations and stuff. And we've done those in the past. But stuff like that I think is important too. Just awareness and education is going into schools too and talk, what's career day in a way, where you can go in and talk to younger kids about just silly things. And it's not silly, well, it's my job, but like keys and stuff. It's amazing how fascinated young kids are with that stuff when you give them keys to play with and stuff like that. So small things like that I'd like to try and get back into as we come out of stuff and we have some more flexibility with getting in person and doing stuff.